And now, my number one favourite video game of all time is... Hi everyone, welcome back to another video, and this is my first top 10 and probably the most important if you've read the title. So before we get into it, just a few house rules. This is my list, not an official list of any kind, because that doesn't exist. This is just my list, mixing what I believe to be the greatest games of all time with a big old bunch of nostalgia. Another rule, each game will be of a different series, otherwise I could fill this up with Zelda and Final Fantasy alone. With that being said, this is my top 10 video games of all time. Did I mention nostalgia? Wow! Yeah, this list's going to have a lot of that, including Crash Bandicoot 3 Warped. So Crash 3 was the first Crash game I ever played. I actually ended up playing the original PS1 classics in reverse. I'm not sure why. I think, well, mainly it's because I got what was given to me as a child. You were given a game, and that's the game you were going to play. It was a bit weird starting on the third, but I knew there was another two, so after I really enjoyed this one, I knew I could go back to 1 and 2. So this is an amazing gem of a game. At the height of the series, with so many collectibles along the way, it was addicting, to say the least. The water levels used to drive me insane as a kid, but now I've come to, I wouldn't say enjoy, maybe appreciate them a little bit more. You're always looking for the third, what have I got? Mask.
What?
To get invincibility in the game, and that was probably the best, as a kid, that was probably the best part of it for me. It would make a 7-year-old me feel invincible for that small bit of time, and get rid of all those annoying enemies that really do creep up on you in this one. When I look at this, it does remind me of just being that 7-year-old sat on the bedroom floor with my friends, all taking in turns. Whoever died would then pass the controller on. You know the rules. And even then, amazed by the intricate level designs. I would not have used that word back then, but now I can use it, I guess. And they stand out even today. And you see that in the Insane Trilogy. They didn't have to change anything. I know it's a remake, so you shouldn't really, but they didn't have to, because Crash 3 is one of the best platformers out there. So to round it up, it's a great game, then and now, which is why it lands itself at number 10. Pokemon. You completely took over my life at one point. As a kid, I would always get obsessed with one thing and then another and then another. These ranged from Beyblade to Yu-Gi-Oh to Pokemon to then wrestling. I remember my obsession started when I went on holiday to Spain, where there were street vendors selling, you guessed it, fake Pokemon cards. Luckily I had my cousin with me, we bought some anyway just because, and he kind of taught me which ones were good, which were bad, which were more rare and hard to find, and from there I became hooked. And then to find out there were video games of this trading card game that I could take out on the go with my Game Boy. Sold. My first game in the series was actually Pokemon Blue. I loved it to death, still have my absolutely trashed original copy today. And then one day I was in my grandparents' house on a weekend, and an advert for a cartoon popped up. I was absolutely bouncing for it. With all of this and the movie, I was Pokemon mad. And it was a bit later on that I discovered Pokemon Yellow. Now, everyone said it was pretty much the same as Blue and Red, so my hopes weren't too high. But my friend let me try his copy, and were we wrong. The colour difference, for a start, and the fact that Pikachu follows you around like in the cartoon, insane. From what I remember, I begged my dad to get it for me for Christmas or my birthday. And while waiting, I remember a friend telling me the main selling point really is that you can have all 3 starters in one game, plus Pikachu. And they were all on my team. What? Squirtle, Pikachu, Charmander, Bulbasaur, all in one place, all on my team, ready to go. My little brain could barely comprehend. wild. This game and this series dominated my childhood, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Okay, JRPG fans, this one's for you. Chrono Trigger. Honestly, what more can be said about this game? An amazing cast of characters that you do end up having a real connection to. Really good turn-based battle system with those synergy abilities way ahead of its time when you think about it. Absolutely perfect music and just an outstanding story full of twists and turns. I wasn't even born when this game came out, but I'd always, from the moment I started collecting, watching YouTube videos when I was, 12 or so, always hear of the legend that is Chrono Trigger. At the time of its release, it looked like Squaresoft was just on a mission to bang out some of the greatest games in gaming history. This originally came out on Super Nintendo, the SNES, and on that console alone, you've got games like Final Fantasy VI, Secret of Mana, Super Mario RPG, Breath of Fire, and of course our boy Chrono, just to name a few. Especially with the latter, just look at the all-star cast that worked on this masterpiece. Chrono Trigger would be high atop anyone's list who's ever had the pleasure of playing it. And if this was a list of the games that I think are the greatest of all time, and not just my personal favourites, it would easily be in the top 5, probably in the top 3. But as it stands, Chrono Trigger sits comfortably at number 8. Childhood, you were a simpler time. Pizza, cheese strings, Pepsi and PlayStation. My biggest worry at the time was probably forgetting to return the games that I'd rented out. Especially over my dad's. I'd go there on a weekend, and if it doesn't get returned until the weekend after, he's in for some serious penalty charges. Sorry, Dad. Now, this game wouldn't appear on a lot of people's lists, and, that's understandable. I don't think many have played this game, let alone talked about it on places like YouTube, but they should. Talking about this game, I've got my nostalgia glasses firmly on. I know that. I know that's what happens when you come and you sit and talk about your favourite games. I know it's going to happen. As I sit here and think about it, I can't help but smile at the fond memories I have with it. Playing as both Bugs and Taz, unlocking the new areas or eras. But mostly the humour from Daffy Duck alone in this game used to have me rolling when I was a kid.
Okay, this is gonna cost you extra.
More than that though, it's quite sentimental, because this is the first game I ever actually beat. And I did it with the help of my dad. So that's always going to be a special core memory for me. And one that I'll obviously always cherish. And, even playing it for a little bit today to get some of this footage, it is still really fun. Time Busters will always have a place in my top 10. But today it's at number 7. Yes, I cheated. Sue me. I mean, come on, how couldn't I? There isn't just one Smash game that stands out to me. Melee, Brawl, Smash 4, and Ultimate. They were all a massive part of my life at different times. Melee and Brawl from my childhood. Smash 4 while I was becoming an adult. And Ultimate for when people say I'm too old to play these games. They all mean something to me. I've got multiple memories with each one that don't just include myself, like a lot of the games I've got here today. So they are different in that way. And there is no feeling like getting that GameCube controller in your hands and just going for it with any of these. If you want to hear more about Smash and my experience with the series, let's just say subscribe and maybe stick around. Some would say This is the best told story in video game history. While that might be a bold statement for some, it's pretty hard to argue. Because The Last of Us is just that good. My history with horror games isn't the best. Outside of this series, I've probably played a handful. Alan Wake 2, Resident Evil 4.
Huh?
Not many others. My anxiety-riddled brain can barely handle it, but I got through it. And fairly easily. Because it's The Last of Us. It's one of those games where, you know, game adaptations in general aren't the best. But this could be, and now is, a big hitter TV drama. It's absolutely massive, even outside of gaming. And there's many reasons why. You know, people think about video games and they think about Call of Duty and Fortnite. But you play through this and you see the bond between Joel and Ellie. That will tug on your heartstrings throughout. Even the side characters, however brief their screen time may be, so genuine and believable, they feel like just such a bigger part of the journey than what they might have been in any other game. I do struggle to call anyone from this game a character, to be honest, because they just don't feel like someone's created them and made them up. They feel real. The love between Joel and Ellie, especially, obviously, it's infectious. You just want them to always be okay and to always have one another and be side by side. I'm not a father, but I assume this is as close as a parent can feel to their child, and they're not even related. The whirlwind of emotions, along with the immense sense of dread and fear, just helps make this game stand out amongst the best. I never wanted to finish it. I did not want to leave these people that I'd become so invested in. Part 2 was great, but The Last of Us will always hold a special place in my heart. Okay, another game that just screams childhood and comfort for me. That song is engraved into my brain, and I'm fine with it. I don't think it matters which Spyro game I played first. That's the one that would have ended up on this list. I love them all, but it just so happens that my love started with Spyro 2 Gateway to Glimmer, or Ripto's Rage. Cheesy voice acting.
Oh, the professor's book. They have claws like this, teeth like this, and they spit fire like this.
Collectibles out the ass. Chasing goons with eggs. I can always remember waking up on a Saturday morning, booting up the PlayStation 1 at my dad's house, and playing this absolute gem. Don't get me wrong, there's definitely some frustrating parts, but I still loved it regardless. The cast of characters were all unique and really shine through. Hunter, Ripto, Spyro, Laura, the Professor, even Moneybags, you know, all the ones you meet in each world. I could grab this game at any time and just be transported back to my childhood. I would love to just make myself a big bowl of carefree cereal, sit on the bedroom floor for hours on end, experiencing this again. There just aren't many games that would give me the same feeling that Spyro gives me, and that's why it's at number 4. We're in top 3 territory now, and what a way to start with Super Mario 64 for the Nintendo 64. Now, it wasn't incredibly hard to pick this one out of all the Mario games, because this is the one I grew up on. But, you know, all the 3D Marios are great. The 2D Marios are great. This one... How do you just explain that this is the one? I don't know how. But just trust me, this is the one. Super Mario 64 was the first big jump for Nintendo, going from 2D to 3D. And it was a big risk. At the time, Mario was known and loved for being a 2D platformer, side-scrolling, going in one line, jumping up, jumping down. You get the gist. And the little Italian plumber made them millions upon millions by doing just that, so why change? At the times changed, and they needed to keep up with those times. People at the time thought, would Mario transition well from 2D to a 3D environment? And the answer is 1000% yes.
Well, duh.
While the polygons look just a tad outdated these days, to me it doesn't matter. An amazing game is just an amazing game. When it comes to Super Mario 64, trust me, the graphics at the time were mesmerizing. The impact that this game had on the industry as a whole is actually astounding when you think about it. Saying that this game is still being studied by current developers is an understatement. Even if they're not directly looking at Mario 64, it's involved, because they're looking at other things Mario 64 influenced along the way. As a kid, I tried to get every star. Of course I didn't. One of my gaming goals before I die is to 100% Super Mario 64. Don't know if it's going to happen, but it's on the massive backlog list. The music, the level design, and the all-around experience is one of the greatest in the industry's history. It's my top Mario game, and probably always will be. Yep, Final Fantasy X is my second favourite video game of all time. I've made a standalone video about this, about my Final Fantasy X experience. If you'd like more information than to what I'm going to give in this video, go to my channel, give it a watch. It's my first video, so give me a break. But obviously for the sake of this video, the characters, the music, the things I've said the whole way through, but they are staples in great video games, and this is just that. The game is 10 out of 10 for me. If I could have two #1 spots, I would. It's the game that changed the way I look at RPGs or other games in general. It made me play more RPGs and delve deep into them and experience further immense storytelling and just like intense boss battles. Final Fantasy X opened my mind to the franchise, but Final Fantasy X is only #2 because #1 can't and will never change. Now, before we do get to #1, there are a few titles I'd like to just take a minute to show my appreciation for. So these are my honourable mentions. Uncharted 2. It came out at a time where I really needed to feel again when it comes to video games. And the storytelling in this game did just that. An outstanding game in all aspects. It just missed the list. Ghost of Tsushima. Beautifully told story, stunning visuals, and extremely deep characters. Not ashamed to admit, this one almost brought a tear to my eye. GM mode was God mode. I got some great memories playing GM mode for days with friends and on my own instead of going to school. Don't be like me. Modern Warfare 2, just hours upon hours of fun online with friends. That's what I think of when I look at this. The lobbies helped make me the man that I am today.
Motherfucker, that's what the fuck you are. You look like a fucking Ewok.
For me, it's easily the best COD of the bunch. The franchise needed it, the industry as a whole needed it, to be honest with you. Just for everyone else to up their game. God of War 2018 showed the world what an amazing gaming experience looks like. Shadow of the Colossus, mind-blowing even to this day. And now, my #1 favourite video game of all time is The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. Yes, I'm one of those guys. Ocarina of Time is just the game. It's just the game. How many lists do you see Ocarina of Time in? All of them? Yeah, there's a reason for it. Transcending from 2D to 3D was done perfectly by Nintendo. And this is the prime example to prove that. It has everything you could want from a Zelda game and just a video game in general. Dungeons, new items along the way, unique bosses, really interesting story progression, the high of highs and the low of lows. Saving Zelda and Hyrule in this game for the first time almost felt real. I could not stop playing. I had to carry on, and what an ending. Standard video game, slaying the boss, saving the princess, but it was different because it was more than that. It was the culmination of tens of hours building up to this perfect crescendo of finally slaying the beast after time traveling throughout. Come on! The music is always in my head. Even the little sound bites. The parts that pissed me off, I still loved. I even quite enjoyed the water temple. Fight me in the comments. And without fail, whenever I boot the game up, on that title screen with the ocarina started playing again, I'd get goosebumps every time. I'm literally getting them now talking about it. Remember changing from a child to an adult in seconds? That just blew my mind. When I first started playing this game, I was used to simple platformers or first-person shooters, whatever was popular at the time. But I decided I had to give this a chance, and my god am I glad that I gave it a chance. I genuinely thought the game was done after the first 3 dungeons, and that wasn't even the first half. The side quests, hidden secrets, main story, character progression. Looking at you, Sheik. Could have me talking to you for hours, to be honest with you. But I won't go into more detail just yet. Stay tuned. So I guess I'll end it with The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time is, and forever will be, my favourite video game of all time. If you made it this far, thanks so much for sitting through my first top 10 list. It's probably rough around the edges, yeah? I hope it wasn't too bad. Please give me some feedback in the comments. I'd love to read what I can do better and to improve. And if you want more videos like this, I'll be doing them on a more regular basis now. I'll be covering news, a few top 10s, my experiences, my video game memories, you know, the standard YouTuber gamer stuff. But yeah, I'll be doing it all more consistently in the future. So please consider subscribing. Cheers.